I thought I was going on a normal date with my girlfriend, maybe dinner, maybe a movie, maybe one of those nights you forget by the next weekend, but by midnight I was standing under a streetlight in heels I could barely balance in, lipstick still warm on my mouth, my heart beating so hard I could hear it over the traffic, and I realized one date had not just changed my night, it had changed the way I saw myself forever. If you have ever wondered how one tiny yes can turn into the moment that unlocks a whole hidden world inside you, stay with me because I am telling you right now this was not a fantasy, not a dare, not some cute little dress-up game that ended when the lights came on. This was the night I stopped treating crossdressing like a secret curiosity in the back of my mind and started feeling what confidence, beauty, fear, and freedom could do to a person when they all crashed together at once. The whole thing started that afternoon when my girlfriend texted me, "Be ready by 7. And don't argue with me tonight." That should have been my first warning. She never texted like that unless she had already planned everything and decided I was just lucky enough to be included. I remember staring at the message and smiling anyway, because that was one of the things I loved about her. She didn't suggest things. She announced them like destiny had already signed the papers. I got home from work, showered, shaved, threw on a black shirt and jeans, and spent way too long fixing my hair for what I thought was just dinner. When she arrived, she didn't even let me get to the front door before she walked in carrying 2 garment bags, a makeup case, and that look in her eye that meant my night was already over before it began. She set everything on the bed and crossed her arms. "Tonight," she said, "you're trusting me." I laughed, because that felt safer than asking questions.
About what?
About something you've wanted for a long time. That made my stomach drop, because there are some secrets you think are invisible until the exact second someone proves they've been seeing them all along. I tried to play dumb. "I have no idea what you mean." She gave me the smallest smile, not mocking, not smug, just soft and deadly accurate. "You pause every time we pass the women's section. You know more about fabrics than most men. You ask strange questions about eyeliner when you think I don't notice. You once said, and I quote, 'I wonder how hard it is to walk in heels if the posture is right.' You are not nearly as mysterious as you think you are." I felt heat flood my face, so fast I thought I might actually pass out. There is embarrassment, and then there is the kind of exposure that feels like someone reached into your chest and pulled out something you weren't ready to show in daylight. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the garment bags like they were dangerous animals. "So, what is this?" She unzipped the first bag slowly, like she wanted the reveal to breathe. Inside was a dress. Soft rose, fitted at the waist, flowing gently at the hips. Elegant without being loud. Not a costume. Not a joke. A real date dress. The second bag held a cream cardigan and a light coat. Then she opened the shoebox. Nude heels, not too high, maybe 3 inches, enough to feel transformative without turning the night into an orthopedic emergency. Then came the small velvet box with earrings, the clutch bag, the bracelet, and a wig so beautifully styled, I forgot how to speak. "I booked dinner," she said. "For both of us." I looked up at her. "For both of us?"
Yes.
"You and me. Together." My mouth went dry. "Like this?" She nodded. "Like this." I wish I could say I answered immediately, like some brave movie version of myself stepped forward and said yes without fear. But the truth is I froze. My head filled with every possible disaster at once. What if I looked ridiculous? What if I couldn't walk? What if someone recognized me? What if the waiter laughed? What if people stared? What if I liked it too much? That last fear was the one that really scared me, because rejection is easier to survive than recognition. It is one thing to be mocked for wanting something. It is another thing entirely to discover you really do want it. She sat beside me and took my hand. "Listen to me. You can say no. I mean that. I will put all of this away, and we'll go eat burgers in sweatpants. But if the only reason you say no is fear, then I need you to understand something. Fear has already been deciding too much for you." That line cut deeper than she knew. Maybe that was the first real turning point, because until then this had felt like her plan. The second she said that, it became my choice. I looked at the dress again. I ran my fingers over the fabric. It felt cool and expensive and impossibly real. "If we do this," I said, barely hearing my own voice, I don't want it to feel like a joke. Her eyes softened even more.
Good, she said.
Because I would never make you into one. That was the moment I said yes. The next hour changed the chemistry of the room. Suddenly, I was no longer a guy nervously looking at a dress. I was someone preparing to wear it. She laid everything out with a calm focus that made it feel less like a prank and more like a ceremony. First came the basics. She taught me something I know so many people in this world learn too late. The transformation starts long before the dress. Skin matters. Preparation matters. Comfort matters. She handed me moisturizer and said, "Hydrated skin makes everything easier. Makeup sits better, shaving looks smoother, and you stop fidgeting because your face doesn't feel tight." Then she showed me how to check for any visible stubble under brighter light because normal bathroom lighting lies to you. That one tip alone felt like secret knowledge. When I stepped into the shapewear, I finally understood why people who know what they are doing always talk about the silhouette first. The dress doesn't create the shape. The foundation creates the shape. The dress just reveals it. She adjusted everything at the waist and hips, then made me stand straight. "Posture," she said. "Not stiff. Just lifted. Imagine a string pulling the top of your head upward." Then came the dress. I slipped it on, careful, clumsy, almost reverent. When the zipper went up, I felt the room go quiet inside me. Not outside. Inside. Like some constant background noise I had carried for years suddenly lowered itself just enough for me to hear my own breathing. She turned me toward the mirror, but she didn't let me look yet. "Wait," she said. "Half-finished transformation is how doubt sneaks in." She sat me down and began the makeup. I had watched tutorials secretly before, the way some people study maps for places they are too scared to visit, but being on the receiving end of it was completely different. She explained everything as she worked, which made the process feel intimate and educational at the same time. Color correction first, lightly, because beard shadow needs neutralizing, not burying. Then foundation, but not thick. "If you cake it on, you don't look more feminine," she said. "You just look uncomfortable. Concealer only where needed. Blend downward around the jaw. Powder where you crease. Brows matter more than beginners think. Eye makeup should match your confidence level, not your fantasy. You're going out for the first time," she said. "We're doing elegant, not theatrical. Leave yourself room to grow." I was so focused on the technique that I forgot to panic for a while. Then she reached for the eyeliner and said, "Close your eyes," and my heart started racing again. There is something intensely vulnerable about letting someone change your face with such precision. When she moved to the lips, she paused and held up 2 shades. "Soft pink or berry?" I surprised both of us by answering immediately. "Berry." She smiled. "There you are." That might have been the next turning point, small from the outside but huge from the inside. Up to that moment I had been mostly following. With one choice, one tiny opinion offered without apology, I started participating. It was no longer just happening to me. I was building myself. When she finally placed the wig on my head and adjusted the hairline, when she tucked my natural hair away and shaped the strands around my face, when she clipped in the earrings and stepped back, she said, "Now you can look." I turned toward the mirror, and I swear to you, for one full second I forgot every language I knew. The person in front of me wasn't a caricature. She wasn't some exaggerated fantasy. She looked possible. That was what hit me hardest. She looked like someone who could exist in the world. The makeup softened everything without erasing me. The wig framed my face in a way that made my eyes look larger. The dress flowed naturally because the shape beneath it was supported correctly. Even the cardigan made sense, adding softness at the shoulders. I could still see myself in there, but I could also see something I had never allowed to fully emerge. I whispered, "Is that really me?" My girlfriend came behind me and rested her chin on my shoulder. "That's you with honesty." I almost cried right there, and maybe I would have if she hadn't immediately ruined the moment by saying, "Now, let's see if you can survive the heels without filing for divorce." That broke the tension, and I laughed so hard I nearly smudged the lipstick. Walking in heels was humbling in the funniest way possible. In my imagination, I had always thought the hardest part would be pain. It wasn't. It was rhythm. It was balance. It was realizing that a graceful walk is less about forcing your hips and more about shortening your stride, landing carefully and letting your posture do most of the work. She made me walk from one end of the room to the other with the clutch in one hand. Smaller steps. Relax your knees. Don't stare at your feet. Trust the floor. I must have looked ridiculous at first because she laughed into a pillow twice. But after 10 minutes, something clicked. Not perfection. Just enough confidence that I stopped moving like a frightened deer on polished tiles. Then she taught me the thing that helped most. Pause before the first step. People rush when they're nervous, she said. Confidence looks like patience. That stayed with me all night. Honestly, it stays with me even now. By the time we were ready to leave, the room felt charged. I had the coat on, the clutch in hand, perfume at my wrists, and nerves everywhere. She checked me one last time, adjusted a strand of hair, and said, "You are beautiful. Now stop trying to argue with reality." I almost asked if we could still cancel. I almost made up some excuse about feeling sick. But then she held out her hand and I took it, and we walked to the car. The drive to the restaurant was silent for the first 5 minutes. Not awkward silent. Electric silent. I kept looking down at my hands, at the bracelet, at the berry lipstick reflected faintly in the visor mirror. Every red light felt like a test. Every passing car felt dangerous. I could feel my pulse in my throat. She reached over at one point and squeezed my knee. "Breathe," she said. "I think everyone can tell." "Tell what?" "That I'm terrified." She laughed. "That part, maybe." When we arrived, I saw the restaurant entrance glowing warm against the night, couples stepping in and out, people laughing, plates and wine glasses visible through the windows. It suddenly looked like the biggest stage on earth. I stayed in the car with my hand on the door handle and realized I had reached another edge. Getting dressed at home had been private courage. Walking into a public place would be public courage. Completely different animal. My girlfriend turned off the engine and looked at me carefully. "Last chance," she said. I stared at the entrance. "If I go in there, I can't unknow this." She nodded. Exactly. That was the next turning point. I opened the door. The first few steps from the car to the entrance felt louder than thunder. I was sure everyone could hear my heels, my breathing, my thoughts. But something strange happened almost immediately. The world did not stop. No crowd turned. No music cut out. No one pointed. A man held the restaurant door open for us without a second glance and said, "Good evening." I nearly forgot how to answer. My girlfriend did it for both of us, and we walked inside. If you are new to this world, let me tell you one of the biggest lessons I learned that night. Most fear is self-amplified. We imagine a spotlight so bright that every flaw becomes public property. In reality, people are usually too busy living their own lives to inspect yours. That doesn't mean nobody notices. It means the disaster your mind writes is rarely the one reality performs. At the host stand, the woman smiled at us and asked, "Reservation for 2?" My girlfriend gave her name. The host glanced at me and said, "Right this way, ladies." I felt the entire universe tilt. It was one word. Ladies. Casual, automatic, effortless. She hadn't hesitated. She hadn't looked confused. She had simply placed me in the world I was trying so hard to survive in, and for one dizzy second I forgot to keep walking. My girlfriend gently guided me forward. I could feel heat behind my eyes. If you have never been seen in a way that lines up with some hidden part of you, it is hard to explain how powerful one ordinary word can become. At the table, I sat down carefully, adjusting the dress the way she had taught me. Knees angled, movements deliberate. I was hyper-aware of every gesture. The clutch on the seat beside me. The coat draped gracefully. The way I reached for the menu. Even drinking water felt like a performance until, slowly, it started feeling less like a performance and more like practice. My girlfriend leaned in. "You're doing so well." "I think I'm in shock." "That's fair." Then came another surprise. The waiter approached, smiled warmly, and complimented my earrings. I managed to say thank you without my voice cracking, and he moved on like nothing unusual had happened. That tiny moment taught me another lesson that so many people overlook. Details matter. Accessories do a lot of silent work. Earrings, bracelet, bag, hair, nails if you have them done. All of it signals intention. When the details align, people read the whole picture differently. Dinner should have calmed me down, but then turning point after turning point kept arriving like the night had decided I had not suffered enough to grow properly. Halfway through the appetizers, I noticed someone across the room, looking our way. At first I thought I was imagining it, but then he started walking toward us, and my blood turned to ice. I knew him. Not well, but enough. He worked in a neighboring office on my floor. We had shared coffee machine conversations. He had definitely seen my face before, even if only in its usual form. I lowered my eyes so fast I almost stabbed a tomato with the wrong fork. My girlfriend clocked it instantly. What? I know him. She didn't panic. That was one of her superpowers. While I was mentally writing my obituary, she stayed calm enough for both of us. Do not hide, she whispered. Hiding attracts more attention. Just be natural. Natural. I wanted to laugh. Nothing in my body felt natural. He stopped beside our table and smiled politely. Sorry, he said. This is random, but I love your dress. My sister's been looking for one in that color forever. I looked up, ready to hear recognition explode across his face. It never came. I thanked him, somehow in a softer register than my usual voice, but not so forced that it sounded theatrical. He smiled again, apologized for interrupting, and walked away. The relief that hit me was so intense, I nearly sagged into the chair. My girlfriend looked at me and mouthed, "See?" But the bigger lesson was even sharper than relief. I had assumed people saw what I feared. In reality, people often see what you present consistently. Confidence is not about fooling the world. It is about not constantly signaling doubt to it. That might have been the most important turning point of the whole story, because after that, something in me unclenched. Not all the way, but enough. I started tasting the food. I started talking more. I even forgot about my voice for a few minutes. She asked how I felt, and I answered honestly. Like I'm still scared, but the fear isn't driving anymore. She smiled like that was exactly what she had hoped to hear. Then she reached into her purse and slid something across the table. It was a compact mirror. What's this for? Bathroom check, she said. And because I want you to go by yourself. I stared at her. Absolutely not. Yes.
No.
She folded her hands and gave me the patient expression of someone watching a child reject medicine they clearly need. You have to learn that the world doesn't end in small solo moments. I'm not sending you to war. I'm sending you 20 feet away with a mirror. I wanted to refuse. I really did. But she was right, and I knew it. Another edge. Another choice. I stood up, adjusted the dress, took the compact, and walked toward the restroom corridor with my heartbeat trying to set a speed record. This was one of the strangest parts of the night, because the path to the restroom felt longer than the entrance to the restaurant had. At the table, I had my girlfriend, the lighting, the safety of sitting down. Walking alone meant there was no distraction, no buffer, no one to immediately reassure me if something went wrong. I reached the restroom door and stopped cold. It was the women's restroom. Of course it was. Where else would I go dressed like this? And yet the reality of touching that door handle felt enormous. Before I could decide whether to breathe or evaporate, another woman approached. She smiled, reached for the door, and held it open for me. Go ahead. I nodded and stepped inside. That was another turning point, and I want to stay on it for a second because this is where a lot of fear lives for many people. Restrooms are loaded with anxiety, politics, vulnerability, and social pressure. I am not pretending one smooth moment erases that. But what I learned is that panic makes every space feel impossible before you have actually entered it. Inside, the room was just a room. Mirrors, sinks, perfume, hand soap, 2 women touching up their makeup. One of them on her phone. None of them remotely interested in me beyond the normal quick glance people give strangers. I went to the mirror, opened the compact, even though the big mirror was right there, and checked my lipstick. My hands were shaking slightly. One of the women beside me looked over and smiled. That shade looks amazing on you, she said. What is it? I nearly blacked out. I told her I wasn't sure because my girlfriend had picked it. She laughed and said, "Smart woman." That tiny interaction did something huge to me. It moved me from being merely tolerated in the space to being socially included in it, however briefly. Another lesson. When you are learning presentation, makeup is not just visual. It can become social language.
A
Compliment on lipstick or hair can open the smallest, gentlest door into belonging. I returned to the table feeling different. Not fearless, but steadier. My girlfriend knew instantly. "You crossed something in there, didn't you?" I sat down and smiled in a way I don't think I could have faked if I tried. "Maybe." She reached for her glass.
Good.
"Because dinner was only phase 1. I blinked. "There's a phase 2? "Oh, sweetheart," she said. "You really thought I stopped at dinner?" I should have known. I really should have known. But I had gotten so consumed by surviving the restaurant that I forgot this was her plan, and her plans always had another chapter hidden behind the current one. After dinner, instead of walking back to the car, she led me down the block to a small rooftop lounge with live music. The city lights were scattered around us, soft and expensive-looking, and there was a singer setting up near the corner bar. My instinct was immediate.
No.
Absolutely not. Dinner was enough. I completed the challenge. "We can retire undefeated." She laughed. "You think this was a challenge? That's adorable. Please tell me we're not dancing." She said nothing. I closed my eyes. "We're dancing." "Only if you want to," she said, which was technically true and therefore spiritually manipulative. We found a table near the edge of the rooftop. The air was cooler there, and the night had that suspended feeling it gets when something meaningful is still unfolding. I watched the other women around me without trying to copy them too hard, but I noticed things. The way they sat with one shoulder relaxed. The way they adjusted hair without making it a whole event. The way they crossed ankles, leaned in, laughed openly. Observation is underrated when you are learning presentation. Not imitation in a desperate way. Just awareness. Rhythm. Social movement. The difference between forcing femininity and allowing it. The singer started a slow song, and I prayed to every force in the universe that my girlfriend would decide she preferred a cocktail over chaos. Instead, she stood, held out her hand, and said, "Come here." I looked around like she might be talking to someone else. She wasn't. People always imagine the hardest part of dancing while cross-dressed is technique. It isn't. It is accepting visibility. A dance floor is a place where being seen is the point. There is no hiding behind menus or dim corners. I took her hand anyway because by that time the night had taught me something dangerous. Every terrifying step had rewarded me with some piece of myself I had not known how to claim. Out there, with the city lights behind us, I forgot the rules for a minute. Not social rules. Fear rules. I forgot I was supposed to be measuring every gesture for risk. I put one hand where she guided it, let her lead it first, then found the rhythm. The heels, the dress, the music, the closeness, the perfume, all of it merged into one surreal, beautiful moment where I stopped asking, "Do I look convincing?" and started feeling, "I am here." That was one of the biggest turning points of all. The difference between performing and inhabiting. You can only fake the first one for so long. The second one changes your whole energy. When the song ended, I was breathless, smiling, almost dizzy, and then she looked at me with an expression I still remember perfectly. Not amusement, not pride, recognition. Real recognition. She leaned in and said quietly, "You know what's wild? You look more relaxed like this than you do in most of your own clothes." That landed with strange force. I laughed at first, but only because the truth of it scared me. She wasn't saying I had become someone else. She was saying some version of me had stopped bracing. I looked away toward the city and said, "What if this means more than I thought?" She answered without hesitation, "Then we get honest about it. No panic. No judgment. No need to immediately define everything. Just honesty." That was another turning point, maybe the deepest emotional one. Because the fear beneath so many secrets is not just exposure. It is the belief that once the truth is visible, someone will force it into a shape before you are ready. She didn't do that.
She made space.
We returned to the table and ordered drinks. I should have known the universe wasn't done with me, because just when I had started to feel beautiful, a gust of wind hit the rooftop, stronger than before, and sent my hair across my face so hard I had to grab the wig instinctively. Pure panic shot through me. If you know, you know. Nothing humbles you faster than a sudden reminder that your glamour still depends on engineering. My girlfriend caught my wrist gently. Relax. Hold the front. Let me fix it. I was mortified. Did anyone see? Maybe. Nobody cares. Sit down. That moment taught me something practical and priceless. Secure the wig properly before leaving the house. Not probably fine.
Properly.
Adhesive if needed, clips where appropriate, comfort balanced with security. Beauty is freedom only when it survives weather, movement, and nerves. She adjusted it in seconds, smoothed the hairline, and said, "There. Next time, stronger anchoring."
Next time.
She said it so naturally, I almost missed it. Not if.
Next time.
Then came the rain. I know that sounds fake, like something a writer adds because the emotional symbolism is too delicious to resist, but I swear it happened. Not a storm. Just a sudden light rain that drifted over the rooftop in silver threads. People laughed and moved closer under the covered section. My first thought was mascara. My second thought was foundation. My third thought was I cannot survive being glamorously undone in public on my first night. My girlfriend grabbed my hand and pulled me toward shelter. We were both laughing by then, and maybe that was the real turning point hidden inside the rain. I was no longer reacting like someone in danger of being exposed. I was reacting like someone who didn't want her makeup ruined. Do you understand how different those mindsets are? One is built on shame. The other is built on ownership. Under the covered section, she checked my face. "You're okay," she said. "Barely touched." "Barely? You'll live, drama queen." I leaned against the railing and looked at my reflection in the glass behind the bar. A little flushed, slightly windblown. Not perfect, but undeniably alive. That might have been the exact moment I started liking imperfection. Up until then, I had been chasing the idea of flawless presentation because I thought flawlessness would buy safety. But slight messiness, handled with confidence, can feel even more real. Then she told me the truth she had been holding all night. "This wasn't just for fun," she said. I turned to her slowly. "I figured." She held my gaze. "I wanted to show you what happens when you stop treating this part of yourself like it's only allowed to exist in imagination. You've been standing at the edge of this for so long. Reading, watching, wondering, joking around it, circling it. I wanted you to have one night where wondering was not enough."
I didn't know what to say.
She stepped closer. "And," she added softer now, "I wanted to see if you would light up." You did. There it was. No more pretending this was just a spicy couple activity or a harmless experiment. She had seen me long before I allowed myself to be seen. That realization broke. Something open inside me. Not in a tragic way. In a truthful way. I asked the question that had been haunting me since the mirror. "Were you scared I'd hate it?" She smiled sadly.
No.
"I was scared you'd love it and then start hating yourself for loving it." That line hit harder than anything else that night, because she was right. That was the turning point where my fear finally changed shape. Up until then, I had feared the world. In that moment, I recognized that my biggest fight had always been with the part of me that thought joy needed permission. We left the rooftop later than planned. The city was quieter, the streets glistening from the rain, and I remember thinking how strange it was that I no longer wanted the night to end. At the beginning, I had wanted escape routes. Now, I wanted extensions. More walking, more air, more time in the version of myself I had just met properly. On the way back to the car, we passed a boutique window, and I saw our reflection side by side. She in her dark dress, elegant and calm. Me in rose, hair soft around my shoulders, clutch in hand, heels clicking in a rhythm I had earned one terrified step at a time. We looked like two women leaving a beautiful night behind them. I stopped walking. "What?" she asked. I couldn't stop staring at the glass. "I don't look like I thought I would." In a bad way? In a real way. She smiled. That's usually the scary part. I think that was turning point number 11 because it was the first time I wasn't looking for proof that I passed or failed. I was looking at presence, reality, coherence. I looked like someone living a moment, not someone trying to win a test. Then the final twist arrived, and this one nearly sent me into cardiac arrest for completely different reasons. When we got back to the car, she pulled out her phone and asked, "Can I show you something?" I was immediately suspicious. Depends. She opened her camera roll, and there, among a dozen pictures from the night, was one photo of me standing near the rooftop lights, half-turned, smiling without realizing it, one hand holding my hair away from the wind. I froze. It was the most unguarded I had looked all night. No pose. No overthinking. Just joy. "I want to post it," she said. My heart dropped. "Absolutely not." She nodded.
Fair.
"Listen first." I crossed my arms, which is hard to do elegantly in a fitted dress, but I managed. "I'm listening with anger." She laughed. "I wouldn't post your face publicly without permission. I meant cropped, from behind or side angle, no identifying details, just the story. Because I think there are people who need to hear that one honest night can change everything." I stared at the photo again. Part of me still wanted to bury it forever. Another part of me understood exactly what she meant. There are so many people living behind locked inner doors, convinced their curiosity is too embarrassing, too niche, too dangerous, too impossible to explore with tenderness. What if seeing one beautiful, ordinary, imperfect moment gave someone courage? I surprised myself again. "Can I write the caption?" Her smile widened slowly. Yes. That was the final turning point. Not just accepting the night, claiming authorship over it. I wrote, "I thought I was going on a date. I didn't know I was meeting a braver version of myself." She posted the cropped version with that caption, and we sat in the parked car for a second like we had just mailed a secret to the universe. On the drive home, my phone buzzed once, then again, then several times. Comments. Reactions. Messages from people we knew only partially, from friends of friends, from strangers who found the post through tags and timing, and whatever invisible engine moves emotion across the internet. The responses were not what I had feared. They were full of people saying things like, "This is beautiful," and "Confidence looks good on you," and "Thank you for posting this," and most unexpectedly, "I needed this tonight." That meant more than I can explain. Now I need to tell you the part that mattered after the glamour, after the compliments, after the adrenaline. When we got home, I stood in front of the mirror again while she began helping me take everything off. Earrings first. Bracelet. Wig. Lipstick.
Dress.
Shapewear. Heels. Every layer removed with the same care it had been put on. And I realized something I had not expected. I was not relieved to be done. I was reflective. Tender. Changed. Sometimes people imagine transformation as a lightning strike where you become a brand new person in one dramatic scene. That is not how it felt. It felt more like a locked room inside me had finally gotten air. I was still me when the makeup came off. Still me when I put on my old clothes. Still me when I washed my face. But I was also someone who now knew the difference between wondering and knowing. I asked her quietly, "Were you serious when you said next time?" She looked at me through the mirror. "Do you want there to be a next time?" I took a deep breath. Yes. There are moments in life where your future doesn't arrive like thunder. It arrives like a simple answer spoken without hesitation.
Yes.
That was mine. We stayed up late talking, and this is where I want to share the deeper lessons for anyone watching, especially if you are drawn to cross-dressing, exploring femininity, or trying to understand what parts of this world might fit you. The first lesson is that fantasy is easy to romanticize and fear is easy to exaggerate. Reality is where your truth actually lives. The second is that presentation starts with comfort and preparation, not perfection. Good skin prep, smart makeup choices, fit, posture, movement, and emotional calm matter more than chasing some impossible image in your head. The third is that your first look does not need to be extreme to be powerful. Elegance beats overcompensation almost every time. The fourth is that confidence is built through small survivable moments, not giant fearless leaps. Opening the car door. Walking to the host stand. saying thank you, going to the restroom, dancing for one song. Each step teaches your nervous system that the world is still standing. The fifth lesson is about support. If you have someone in your life who can create safety without controlling your identity, value that deeply. My girlfriend did not tell me what label to use, what this meant forever, or how far I had to go. She gave me structure, encouragement, and honesty, then let me feel my own way through the rest. That kind of support is rare and powerful. The sixth lesson is that details really do matter. The right wig placement, a manageable heel height, a flattering but not overly ambitious dress, a bag that fits the outfit, makeup suited to your skill level. These things are not shallow. They reduce stress. Stress reduction creates confidence. Confidence changes how you move. How you move changes how the world reads you. The seventh lesson is that mistakes are not proof you don't belong. Wind happens. Rain happens. Nerves happen. Imperfection is not failure. It is part of becoming real. And the final lesson, maybe the hardest one, is this. Sometimes the thing you're most afraid of is not rejection. It is relief. Because relief means the secret was carrying real weight. Relief means there was something true waiting under the fear. Relief means you can no longer dismiss yourself as curious just for fun if your heart is suddenly beating like it has finally been let out of a locked room. Over the next few days, that one date kept unfolding in me. I found myself replaying tiny moments. The host saying ladies. The woman in the restroom complimenting my lipstick. The way the heels stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like posture with consequences. The dance. The rain. The photo. My own face in the mirror before and after. Different, and yet somehow more aligned. I also noticed something else. The shame that used to hover around my curiosity had weakened. Not vanished overnight, but weakened. Once something beautiful has existed in the open, it is harder to fully drag it back into darkness. A few days later, my girlfriend came home to find me sitting on the couch with a notebook. She raised an eyebrow. What's this? I tried to sound casual and failed completely. I made a list
Of
things I learned for next time. She sat down beside me and took the notebook. I almost snatched it back, but she was already reading. Moisturize earlier. Better wig security. Practice walking while carrying a bag. Learn 2 or 3 natural seated poses. Don't overthink voice. Berry lipstick works. Bring blotting papers. Confidence looks like slowing down. She looked up at me and smiled the kind of smile that reaches someone's soul before their face. This is adorable. It's strategic, I said with dignity. It's adorable and strategic. Then she flipped the page and saw what I had written at the bottom. Next date idea. I plan at this time. She looked at me for a long second. You're serious? I nodded. I don't want the next time to be something that happens to me. I want it to be something I choose. And that, more than the dress or the compliments or even the mirror, was the real ending of the story. The night had started with her plan and my fear. It ended with my choice. So if you are watching this and some part of you has been standing where I stood, half curious, half terrified, telling yourself maybe one day, maybe in private, maybe not really, maybe it means nothing, let me say this as clearly as I can. One safe, honest experience can teach you more than years of wondering from a distance. Start with care, not chaos. Start with respect, not ridicule. Start with a look that helps you breathe, not one that demands perfection. Learn your posture. Learn your colors. Learn what makes you feel beautiful rather than what you think you are supposed to wear. If heels scare you, go lower. If bold makeup overwhelms you, go softer. If public feels impossible, begin in private. But begin somewhere because secrecy grows heavier the longer it goes untouched. That one date did not give me every answer. It did something more valuable. It gave me a real question I was no longer afraid to ask. Not, what if I'm weird for wanting this? Not, what will people think? Not, can I pull it off perfectly? The real question became, how much of my life do I want fear to keep editing for me? I already know my answer now. Not anymore. And the wildest part is, when I think back to that first moment in the mirror, I no longer remember the panic first. I remember the recognition. I remember seeing beauty, where I expected embarrassment. I remember hearing my girlfriend say, "That's you with honesty." I remember the host saying, "Ladies." I remember the dance floor, the rain on the rooftop, the city lights in the glass, the photo I almost refused, the caption I ended up writing myself. I remember getting home and realizing I wasn't trying to erase the night from my mind. I was trying to protect it, because some nights are not just memories. Some nights are proof. Proof that presentation can be learned. Proof that confidence can be built. Proof that style is skill plus self-acceptance. Proof that one supportive person can change the temperature of your entire inner world. Proof that fear gets smaller when it is forced to share space with joy. Proof that maybe the version of you that you keep thinking is too risky, too tender, too embarrassing, too impossible, is actually the version most desperate to breathe. My girlfriend thought she was taking me on a date. What she really did was hand me a key.